Call to order the March 18, 2008 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the City of Louisville. I do announce that a quorum is present. Item 2 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the March 4, 2008 meeting. Do I have any corrections or comments or a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minute.
Second.
Motion from Karen, a second from Bill. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are approved. Item 3 is consent agenda plats. Item 3A is the final plat of CB Green Addition, a 2.07 acre tract zone general business located on the south side of Lake Park Road between I-35E Frontage Road and Mill Street.
This plat has no variances requested. It does comply with the GDO and the zoning ordinance, and staff would recommend approval.
Thank you, Mary. Does anyone on the commission have any questions or comments related to item 3A? And if not, do I have a motion to recommend approval or denial?
Make a motion to approve item 3A as presented.
Second.
Motion from Karen and a second from Jim for item 3A. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 4A on the agenda, public hearing plats. Item A is final plat of NEC 1171 and Valley Parkway Addition, lots 3R1-A and 3R3 Block B, being a replat of 3R1 Block B, a 5.06 acre tract zone general business bounded by Civic Circle on the north, Valley Parkway on the west, and FM 1171 Main Street to the south with a requested variance.
Good evening. This plat does have a variance associated with it. Oops. As you can see, the plat is a very long and narrow piece of property that runs between Main Street and Civic Circle along the east side of Valley Parkway. This particular lot has been replatted on a number of occasions and is being replatted again for the purpose of selling off the northern portion of the lot up against Civic Circle. I've got the portion that's being sold off shaded in green on the overhead. The General Development Ordinance requires that when property is platted at the intersection of a arterial and a collector street, such as this, Valley Parkway and Civic Circle, that the developer is required to install a right turn lane at the intersection. In this particular case, the developer is not objecting to dedicating right-of-way and building the right turn lane. However, mainly because he does not want to impact the portion of the lot that he's going to retain ownership of, he applied for a variance to provide a shorter than normal right turn lane. This exhibit is in your backup as well. It shows a schematic of what the right turn lane would look like. Normally, a right turn lane is required to be 210 feet long, which would be 100 feet of storage for cars to set in, and then a 110-foot transition for a total of 210 feet. In this particular case, the turn lane is being designed as sort of a continuous right turn with an island well, the main reason for that, of course, is to avoid having to relocate the signal poles at that intersection. And in doing so, the engineer who designed this was able to shorten the turn lane down to 170 feet long, but maintain the minimum 100 feet of storage space for cars. So, in essence, the transition portion of the turn lane is shorter than what would normally be required. With this type of turn lane where you're just making a continuous right turn as opposed to the standard right turn lane where you're kind of making a right turn and then a left to get into position, doesn't really require as long as a transition because you're just making one simple turn as opposed to two complex turns. So staff is not opposed to this particular variance, number one, because of the type of design that's being proposed, and number two, the lot that's actually being sold off and will ultimately be developed is relatively small, and the developer is willing to go ahead and install the right turn lane in spite of the fact that the portion of the lot that has not been developed is relatively small compared to what's already been developed. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Any commissioners have any questions for David? So David, it's going from 210 to 170 basically, and pretty much the 40 feet difference. What are we in essence missing off of this right turn lane? Some extra storage space, or the actual transition?
No, transition. The transition will be 40 feet shorter than normal.
And the transition you consider to be the latter part of the?
It's the part that allows the driver to transition from the main lane into the turn lane.
Okay. Okay, I see. In essence, when looking at this drawing, does it really even? It really doesn't even have a transition, does it? I think, as you pointed out, it's really just more like a 170-foot-long turn.
Well, it does, although it does have 100 feet of storage,
right, which
is basically the area of this turn lane where a car could sit and be completely outside of the main lane. So, with normal length vehicles, you could probably stack 4 or 5, some maybe even 6 vehicles in the turn lane without impeding traffic in the through lanes. So the portion of the turn lane from that point back would be considered the transition.
So under normal engineering standards for this type of turn, why do you put the transition in? There must be a reason the transition is normally, we're all used to it. We, sort of turn in and then, do this. So there must be a reason that that's considered to be the standard, and why?
Well, to be honest with you, different cities have different standards. I mean, obviously there's some standards with regard to AASHTO and things of that nature, although I'm aware of different standards for transitions. Normally cities are more concerned with how much storage is being provided at the turn lane. And the transition is not necessarily as important as long as you've got more, either adequate or more than adequate storage, because you can always transition in the area. Even if there's no cars in the storage area, the transition can even happen in what would normally be the storage area.
I would assume normally the transition probably is there so that the car, as they're slowing down to prepare for this turn, can get out of the way of other traffic.
Well, it just basically it provides an area. It's basically the area where you're turning from the main lane to get into the turn lane.
Right.
And, under normal circumstances where you have to make somewhat of an S-curve to get into the turn lane, it takes a little bit longer distance to do that than this type where you're just simply making an easy right turn.
Okay. I don't have any objections to it. I was just curious because I know sometimes, those types of turns tend to get the cars out of the way so the cars coming through can continue. Is this valley where this is 2-lane where it's divided like this on each side, or is this
2 lanes?
Yeah, I believe it's 3 lanes in each direction.
Okay. I just know a lot of times from experience when there are these types of turns that just suddenly swoop off, people suddenly just do it, and cars close behind them don't always realize they're doing it because they're not making that transition to warn you, oh, hey, they're turning. They just go. And so I just want to make sure that we're all, I mean, like I said, no objections. I just kind of wondered what we're losing by missing out on that extra 40 feet.
And we, We very often, in fact, the code allows this type of right turn lane in instances where we have utilities or signal poles or something that would be extremely costly to relocate. We do allow these types of right turn lanes as opposed to the normal kind that you see more often.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything else. Does anyone else? And okay, thank you, David. And I believe Mary, you told me we do not have the developer, the engineer, or the developer, anyone here. Okay. Does anyone have any questions that would normally be addressed toward the engineer or the developers? No. Okay. If not, do I have a motion then on item?
No.
Oh,
You have to open the
all
public
right.
hearing.
Sorry about that.
You want comments? You want comments?
I hadn't thumbed back to my agenda, so I didn't see that. So, yeah, I'll open the public hearing for item 4A. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this item, please step forward.
Make a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion from Karen and a second from Jim to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Public hearing is closed. Any additional comments then for staff or anyone?
Make a motion to approve item 4A as presented.
One.
I got some comments.
Sorry,
Okay,
Bill.
sorry. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Bill.
I want to commend the engineer for doing a good job at that intersection. The intersection has a traffic control signal box there, also has the traffic control supports for the overhead stoplights. Some 45 years experience that I've got doing work like this. This is the bane of the engineer to do it properly so that everybody's happy with it, including the developer, because it costs about $40,000 to relocate this facility right there. You asked, the question was asked, why do we have the transition like we have with the reverse curve in it? That's the outgrowth of some 60 years worth of development by engineers to handle the traffic speeds, or the lanes, through lanes have picked up, so you got to get them out of the way.
Right.
And so this concept right here is excellent in this situation because we don't have that high-speed traffic, and we don't have all that much traffic there. So I am very much in favor of allowing the waiver this time.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Anyone else? All right. Can I have a motion again?
Make a motion to approve 4A as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Karen, a second by Bill to approve or recommend approval of item 4A with the variance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 on the agenda is other business. Mary is shaking her head no. Do any of the commissioners have anything?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion from Karen to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from James. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.